So my last video I showed you how to make a ring out of a piece of scrap metal like this, and now I want to make a box to put the ring in, obviously. I have this piece of old wood. It still has a couple of notches or grooves here that we'll need to get through and away. I think the width should suffice to make two walls from this one piece, and then kind of shape it into a nice little box. I think the wood just has a beautiful color, and by filing and polishing it, I think we should get something nice from it. Let's see.
So I sawed off the front part where there was a couple of grooves left, and here I'm trying to make it to cut it in the middle, so I get two equally sized pieces, of which I can then make the walls and also the upper and lower faces of the box. Sawing just a very little slit so I can see how my saw is positioned. The tools I'm using here are a bit rudimentary. Whatever indications I have, well, they're not really precise. So actually just saw a very tiny bit and then check with the hand measurement right after that. Here I'm pretty happy with the width and how it's cut for both sides. So adjusting the saw here to cut up the first two pieces so I can do the second part right after. The reason I have to do it in two steps is because this is actually all the saw comes out of the table. So this is the deepest cut I can make with the saw. Here two pieces are ready, which we're then going to use for the sides and bottom and top faces of the box. Now doing it with the second half of the original wood slab, getting me the same width. All right, so here I am with my three cut pieces of wood. You see that there's quite some charring, or it's quite black from the warm blade, because the wood I'm cutting here, the alpha wood, is actually a pretty hard type of wood, so you need a lot of force to cut it nicely. So here I'm filing, or actually planning the pieces to get the charred part off and make the surfaces nice and smooth, and get them all to perfectly the same width in the end. But so here you see the difference, how the pieces looked before, and now how the three pieces look nice and smooth, just as they should. So those are the pieces that are going to make up our box. Actually, the bottom part and the lid, the walls, everything is going to be made from this. First thing I'm doing here is cutting the sizes of the walls I want to make. So basically, half the height of the box, as the top and the lid and the bottom part are going to be the same size in terms of the wall thickness. Now I want to make the lid and the bottom part interlock, basically with an interlocking joint. And so here I'm trying out how I could best make this interlocking joint. I hide most of the saw using this wooden piece of scrap wood here attached to the sawing table, and just trying to saw a tiny little bit off of it, but making it symmetrical, so that when I do that to both sides, the lid and the bottom part, then once you put them together, they interlock just as you see here. Here again, just trying it out, how I could best make it work, and how the saw should be set. But once I'm happy with the settings, I take the real pieces, the ones I wanna use later on, and do the same thing. And when you're done, you should get to something nice and interlocking. So one will be the lid part, and one will be the bottom part. The next step is to cut the corners. I want to have 4 45 degrees corners in the box. I'm sorry, 90 degrees corners, obviously. But here cutting 45 degrees, so the both edges that come together will line up nicely and form a nice corner. Unfortunately, the tools here are pretty rudimentary, so what I have to do is just fit it by eye, more or less, make it fit, and then go back and readjust this a couple of times until I have it fitting more or less to how I want it, adapting a bit back and forth, because the tools or actually the saw just hasn't precise enough measures for me to build it from the first time. So here you see 4 corners cut or 4 sides cuts, and you see that it isn't perfectly fitting, but it's almost fitting. So the rest of it, I can just take the inner part of the box, which will be the cover or the bottom part, and file it just a little bit so that in the end it'll sit nicely. Next step is to glue it all together, taking the four side parts, putting some glue to all sides. I also use a tape already attached that, so I can just fold it together nicely and make sure it holds for the time during the time the glue needs to dry out, and squeezing it all together with a couple of screws right afterwards. So here you see both pieces, the top and the bottom part, compare right next to each other. Next step I want to do is make this little inlet where I'll be able to put the ring in. So here I'm just cutting a couple of holes into a piece that fits nicely into the box. And once there's a couple of holes there, I'm actually just filing the rest out. I don't have any more. I don't have any better tools or ways to saw it out, so I'm just using a hand file, which actually goes nicely. So here you see the first rough version of the box, looking pretty nice already, but obviously it hasn't been sanded, hasn't been filed. So this is the next step, making it look nice on all corners. Obviously, also giving these corners a nice file down to make them smooth. And not as scratchy as they look right now, making it all even. Once you're done with that, going to the 240 sandpaper, which prepares me for rubbing it with oil. Of course, as is tradition, you would always take a female's panties to rub something in oil. No, that's just what we had laying around in terms of old garments to use for that. But there I go then, rubbing it with a linen oil, which is which just gives the cover a very, very nice finish in the end. I think the color is nice, and there's also a little bit of protection from moisture for the box afterwards. But mostly going for this nice dark wood effect. Once you're all done with that, well, as mentioned before, inserting the ring holding inlet, putting the ring in, and adding the lid to the bottom part, and there you go with a nice little wooden box, which will be the gift the gift wrapping box for the ring. Now, to make the ring hold nicely inside there and stopping from wobbling around, I'm using an old sponge, cut this down to a right size, then wrapping this in a little bit of a felt layer, white felt here I'm using. Securing this all with a simple staple gun, and then putting it actually into the lid of the box. Make sure that the sponge is just cut to the right size, so it doesn't. The lid still goes on nicely, but the ring is still protected. I had to do a couple of tries, 2, 3, but right now it sits really nicely, and it gives us this nice little jewelry box finish with this inside protection. And there you go for the perfect gift. And that one big yes you're going for is almost guaranteed.